أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, every year in Mecca, there used to be a festival. And in this festival, there was a man one year, he came to the women of Mecca. The women used to gather there a lot. And he was doing something with his spear. He was performing with his spear. And he came close to the women of Mecca, and he said, and he had a Jewish background, he was from Medina. And he said, "O women of Mecca, there will come a time, there will come amongst you a man whose name is Ahmad. And whosoever can marry this man, then do so." There was a woman in that gathering that said that really penetrated her heart. This woman comes from a really royal background. She is very intelligent. She is very educated. She has very good manners. She's known in the society to be somebody that is righteous and somebody that is honest. Her nickname was Al-Tahir. They used to call her, the pure and the honest. So she marries a man by the name of Abu Hala, and she has 2 kids with him. And this man, after their marriage, a few days or so, a few weeks later, he passes away. And then after that, she marries another person with the name of Atiq. And this man is from the tribe of Banu Makhzum. And Banu Makhzum is the richest tribe in Mecca at that time. So she marries a very successful businessman. She has a lot of wealth, right? And then after that, 3 years later, this man also passes away, and they also have 2 kids. This woman now, at the age of 25 years old, she's widowed twice, and she has 4 kids that she has to take care of. Not only that, but she also has a lot of wealth. She is by far the richest woman in Mecca at that time. They used to say that her caravan, if you were to take her caravan and take the other caravans of the other tribes of Quraysh, her caravan was bigger. So she looks at her caravan, she looks at her business and all the inheritance she has from her parents and the other 2 marriages, and she says, "I'm not going to get married. I'm just going to become a businesswoman. I'm going to invest in my business, and I'm going to be self-sufficient." So what she does is she hires a broker. Every year, there used to be 2 caravans that used to go in Mecca. During the winter, the caravans would go south to Yemen, and during the summers, they would go up north to the land of Sham, to Syria. So she would hire a broker, and what the broker would do on her behalf is take her products or take her money and basically go and trade and invest it and come back with a profit. But she was having a problem. And the problem was that whenever she tried to hire somebody, this person would cheat her. This person would take some of the money. This person would not be truthful in their business dealings. And sometimes there would be people that would just take her products or her money and just would never come back. And then she was frustrated. She couldn't find anybody that she could trust. So she goes to Abu Talib and she says, I need somebody trustworthy. I need somebody that I can hire, that I can trust, that's honest, because I have some investments and I need to make sure that my business is protected. So Abu Talib says, look, I have a nephew. His name is Muhammad. He doesn't have much experience. I think he's just been a shepherd. That's it. But he's honest and he's a good guy. So see if you can hire him. So now, as everybody probably already can guess, Khadija radiallahu anha, she talks to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and she says, look, can you be my broker? Can you take these products, go trade on my behalf, and make this much profit? And if you do so, I will double your salary. And many of us, we know the story. We know what happens afterwards. She sends a servant with the name of Maysara, and Maysara is just blown away with the character of the Prophet ﷺ. With the way that his honesty and the way that he doesn't let anybody serve him, and just the way his dealings was, and he didn't swear by any idols. And we know the story that he saw some strange things during that visit. He said that there was a cloud above us, that the cloud would follow us as we were going. He said there was a tree, we would sleep under the tree, and the branches were giving us shade. And as the sun moved, the branches of the tree would move as well to give us shade. So he sees strange things, and he goes back and after the business trip, the products come back. Not only did the Prophet ﷺ, he came back with honesty, but he also doubled her profit. Because she promised him double the salary, he said, I'm going to double your profit. So then Maysara says all these good things about the Prophet ﷺ, and then Khadija hears about this. She's very curious. She goes to a woman with the name of Nafisa. And Nafisa is like the matchmaking desi auntie of the community at that time. Right? So Nafisa says, she hears the story of Muhammad ﷺ, and she tells Khadija, why don't you propose to him? She says, no, I'm really old. I'm almost hitting 40, and who would want to marry me? And she says, wait, hold on, let me ask him. So she goes to the Prophet ﷺ and she says, so what are you thinking about marriage? What are your thoughts on marriage? And he says, no, at this time, I really want to just work and really want to support my uncle, Abu Talib. He raised me, and I really want to just help him out, and I want to really just, focus on work. And she says, what if I tell you about a woman that is rich, that is honest, that is pure? Would you be interested? And he says, who? And she says, what about Khadija? And he says, do you really think she would be interested in me? And she says, well, I don't know, but let me ask. Right? So she goes back to Khadija and she says, good news. I think he's interested, so you should definitely propose to him. And as we know the story, she proposes, the marriage happens. Warqa, the cousin of Khadija radiallahu anha, performs the ceremony of the wedding. And then what happens is he moves, right, to the household of Khadija radiallahu anha. Her house is pretty big, okay? She has a sizable house. So he moves into the house, and not only that, but he becomes an employee of Khadija radiallahu anha. Look at the taboos that he's breaking. Number one, right? Khadija radiallahu anha proposed to him, not the other way around, okay? Number two, he married somebody 15 years older than him. Nowadays in our society, especially the Desi culture, if somebody's looking to get married, like if the girl is not even 15, but even like a year old, they would say, oh no, she's too old, I don't think we can pursue this, right? Number three, he moves into her house, not the other way around. Not she doesn't move into his house, right? And number four, he becomes an employee of her, right? So these are the taboos that the Prophet ﷺ is breaking with this marriage. So then afterwards, when we read the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, you hear about the stories in the beginning about, how when he was a little kid, the angel Jibreel came and he opened his chest, cleaned his heart, and then you hear about the story of what I just mentioned of him being a businessman, getting married to Khadija radiallahu anha. And then after that, the next thing that you hear in the seerah is the revelation and how, he went to the cave of Hira. But what about from the age of 25 till the age he was 40? What about those years? Nobody really talks about those years. What happened that time? During those 15 years, he was married to Khadija radiallahu anha, and they had a beautiful marriage. And they had, so many kids. They had Zainab, Kulthum, Ruqayya, Fatima, right? In their house. And then, not only that, but the Prophet ﷺ also had Ali ibn Abi Talib. He also took care of him as well in his household. And then there was Zayd ibn Haritha. All these children, right, were in the household of the Prophet ﷺ at that time, not to mention the previous marriages of Khadija, those kids as well, right? So these kids, they're in this household, and what the Prophet ﷺ is doing at this time is he's being a father and he's being a husband. Okay, he's playing with his kids. He's teaching them good ethical morals. And then, do we ever see, a fight between the husband and the wife? Because from a circumstantial point of view, there's a lot of things that could go wrong, right? There's so many kids in the household, and at the same time, Khadija's coming from a very royal and pampered lifestyle, and then the Prophet ﷺ is coming from a poor, very simple background. So there could be, a possibility of a fight, definitely. But we have a narration of the neighbor of the Prophet ﷺ. He tells us a narration where he says that I never heard voices being raised in the house of the Prophet ﷺ except for one time. One time he heard a loud voice where the Prophet ﷺ, he would say, Hey Khadija, la a'budu lata abada, wa la a'budu al-Uzza. Oh Khadija, I will never worship Lat ever, and I will never worship Uzza. Those were the two idols that the Quraysh used to worship at that time. I will never worship these idols. And you could hear Khadija responding, Khallil Lat wa Khallil Uzza. Just leave Lat and just leave Uzza. And the context behind the story, the scholars, they say that there was a festival, there was a gathering that was happening. Khadija was encouraging the Prophet, let's go, a lot of our family is going to be there. And he said, no, I'm not going to go there because these idols are there in that festival, in that gathering. And she said, okay, just forget it. I wasn't asking you to worship these idols, just forget it. It's okay, just pretend like this never happened. That is the only argument that we know of between Khadija and the Prophet ﷺ. The rest of their marriage, right? Obviously, we know before Rasulullah ﷺ, he gets revelation, right? Allah puts in his heart. First of all, he starts seeing dreams. And then Allah puts in his heart the love of solitude, of being alone and worshiping Allah. And then after that, he goes, and travels to a cave, and he's just there by himself. And now for any of you that have been to Mecca for either Umrah or Hajj, right? If you see Jabal al-Nur, which is the mountain, and then on top of the mountain is the cave. It's a pretty big mountain. It's not like a small little hill that you can just walk up. So from the place where Khadija radiallahu anha, her house was, to the bottom of the mountain, it's about an hour walk. And then from the bottom of the mountain all the way up to the top, it's about another hour and a half or so walk. So you're looking at about 2 to 2.5 hours walk. So the Rasulullah would be there. And then Khadija radiallahu anha, she would go to him. And she would bring him food and water and clothes. And Rasulullah, the narrator says that, she never asked him. He didn't leave and say, oh, by the way, I'm going to this cave, make sure that you bring me these things. He never said that, okay? She did it because of her own love of the Prophet ﷺ, and at that time, she was at the age of 55 years old. A 55-year-old woman walking, about 2 to 2.5 hours for her husband. And when you go now, today, and you want to go up to the cave of Hira, there's like steps that they've made, so it's easier for you to walk. But back in those days, there's no steps, you had to climb, right? And then when the revelation comes, and then when the Prophet ﷺ is coming down, he meets Jibreel and he comes down from the cave. why does he go, the first person he talks to after he gets this message, the first person is his wife. Why? Because Khadija radiallahu anha was his best friend. He could have gone to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is his really close friend too. He could have gone to Abu Talib. Abu Talib pretty much practically raised him. But no, the first person he goes to is Khadija. And he says, Zambinuni, Zambinuni, cover me, cover me. Okay? And then the Prophet ﷺ, he would hear voices and he would see a face. He would see the face of Jibreel and he would hear a voice that would say, Inni Rasulullahi haqqa. Indeed, he said, Ya Ahmad, Inni Rasulullahi haqqa, wa ana Jibreel. The voice would say that you are indeed a truthful messenger and I am Jibreel. And we hear these voices. And the next thing I'm about to say is very interesting. So Khadija hears this, right? And she asks the Prophet ﷺ, she says, next time your companion comes to visit you, tell me. So he says, okay. So one time they're in their house, and he sees Jibreel alayhi salam, and he hears the voice, and he says, I see him. And she says, okay, come, sit with me, sit on my right side. And she says, Atara, do you see him? He says, nah, I see him. She says, okay, now come sit on my left side. So he comes sit on the left side, and she says, Atara, do you see him? And he says, nah. Then she takes off her khimar. And a khimar, it's not like the hijab, but khimar was something back in the day that the women used to wear, which would cover their hair and would go in the back. So she took off her khimar, and she hugged the Prophet ﷺ from the back, where her chin was on his shoulder. And she said, Atara, do you see him? And he said, no, I don't. He's gone. And she says, Uthbat, فَإِنَّهُ مَلَكْ فَلَيْسَ شَيْطَانٍ. She says, be firm, don't worry, that's an angel that you're seeing and not a devil. Right? The intelligence of Khadija radiallahu anha is completely amazing. At that time, she knew that angels are beings that, they are modest, they are shy, and when people aren't covered, they go away. Right? So she knew at that time, she's comforting the Prophet ﷺ, you're not possessed, you're not going crazy. This is something good that's happening to you. Right? And I'm here to support you. She was there with him the entire time to support him. And we know the story of when the boycott happens. And then, the one thing about the boycott is that Khadija is voluntarily going with the Prophet ﷺ with this boycott. Because the boycott was only on the tribe of Banu Hashim, not on the tribe of Banu Asad. Banu Asad was where Khadija was from. So she could have told the Prophet ﷺ, okay, I'm going to stay back, I'm going to do business, I'm going to get some wealth, and then afterwards we'll be okay. She says, no, I'm going to go with you. If we're going to suffer, I want to be there with you. So she suffers, and then, the Prophet ﷺ, there's a time where she is literally to survive. The Muslims are going through terrible conditions, and she is eating leaves to survive. A woman that has come from a royal background, and somebody that has all this wealth all her life, she is now eating leaves to survive. And then it pains the Prophet ﷺ so much to see her wife. To see his wife like this. So then, the good news comes, and it's a famous narration where Jibreel alayhi salam, he comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he says, Khadija's in her house, and he says, Hadihi Khadija, this is Khadija, and give her the good news that Allah sends her his salam. And Jibreel, I give her my salams as well, and give her the glad tidings of a paradise, of a house in paradise, that is made of pearls, and in it there will be no noise, there will be no commotion, and there will be no exhaustion, right? And she's laughing and she's smiling, and she just can't contain the excitement. And every time during that hardship that she was going through, right, she never complained. She never told Rasulullah Sallallahu, can you please ask Allah to make it easy for us? Can you please, ask Allah for help? She always just said, Alhamdulillah, we're okay. So afterwards, the greatest thing that, the most saddening thing that happens to the Prophet ﷺ is the death of Khadija radiallahu anha at the age of 65, and just a few days before Abu Talib had passed away. And it really, really affected the Prophet ﷺ a lot. Because that Khadija radiallahu anha was his backbone, emotional support. And when he lost that, and at that time, there was no ruling of janazah at that time. There was no, salatul janazah, washing of the body. There was no وَمِنْهَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ وَفِيهَا نُعِيدُكُمْ وَمِنْهَا نُخْرِجُكُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. There was none of that, right? When she passed away, the narration says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam carried her by himself, and he buried her by himself in Jannah al-Mu'alla, which exists as of today. And if you ever go for Umrah or Hajj, right, Jannah al-Mu'alla is on a hill like this. And on the top of the hill, in the back, there's a tree. Nowhere else in the graveyard there's a tree. There's one tree in the back, and it says that Abu Talib was buried there, and about 2 or 3 graves down is the grave of Khadija radiallahu anha. This woman never prayed Fajr. This woman never fasted, the month of Ramadan. But the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Maryam alayhi salam was the best woman of her time, and Khadija radiallahu anha is the best woman of our time. Okay? During Fatih Makkah, when the Muslims were getting victory, and the Prophet ﷺ comes back and he doesn't have a house in Makkah, the Sahaba, they say, come stay with us, Rasulullah, come stay with us. And he says, I just want a tent. Just pitch me a tent near the grave of Khadija radiallahu anha. And you can just imagine what he's going through, because Khadija never saw the victory of Islam. She only saw the suffering. And you can imagine what he's going through, that she never saw Islam being successful. She only saw the suffering. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send His peace upon Khadija radiallahu anha. Wa aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So why did I mention the story of Khadija radiallahu anha? Number one, for those people that are looking to get married, make sure that you make dua, but also look for somebody that's compatible with you. So you need a strong spouse for to continue this life, and somebody that can support you in what you do. But for those people that are married, and for those people that have kids and family, it's something to just look at our relationship and look and see how is our relationship with our spouse. Is it a healthy relationship? Is it a supportive relationship? Or is it a relationship that is filled with arguments, filled with fighting, and those sort of things? And that really affects people a lot. For those of you who remember Qari Mahbub Ali, may Allah have mercy on his soul and give him the highest place in Jannah. When he was sitting over there, and I would be reading Quran to him, a man would come by in the masjid, and Qari Mahbub would say salam to him, they would talk, and then afterwards he would leave. And I would come up to him and he would say, Anis, you see that man leaving? Make dua for him, because he's going through family problems with his wife and kids. And I would say, what are you talking about? Like, you never talked about anything like family or issues or anything when he was here. He says, no, you can see it from a person's face. Or sometimes he would say, the person's coming more to the masjid now. Usually when people have problems, they come more to the masjid. So we look at, our family life, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have strong and healthy family relationships, to put love and compassion between the husband and wife. And we ask Allah to bless us with children that are righteous and pious, that will be the leaders of this ummah. A khutbah is supposed to be about recent events, and I just wanted to comment on a few things. Number one, there's a person, Steve Gilland, who is somebody from the interfaith community, from the Mormon Latter-day Saint Church. He had an accident. You might have seen him here at the masjid when he does interfaith events. He had an accident. He's in the ICU. So we ask Allah to give him speedy recovery. And for those of you that are watching the news, we pray, we make dua for the things that are going on in Palestine. We ask Allah to free the land of Palestine and the crazy things that are happening there, and also the attack that just happened today in the Coptic church in Egypt. We send our condolences to the people affected, and we know that those people that committed a crime, they don't represent our faith, they don't represent Islam. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to, Allahumma a'izz al-Islam wal-Muslimin wa adhil ash-shirk wal-mushrikin wa dammir a'da' ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. عباد الله، ان الله يامر بالعدل والاحسان وايتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. واقم الصلاه.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها المزمل قم الليل إلا قليلا نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. إنا سنلقي عليك قولا ثقيلا. إن ناشئة الليل هي أشد وطئا وأقوم قيلا. إن لك في النهار سبحا طويلا واذكر اسم ربك وتبتل إليه تبتيلا. رب المشرق والمغرب لا إله إلا هو فاتخذه وكيلا. واصبر على ما يقولون واهجرهم هجرا جميلا. وذرني والمكذبين أولي النعمة ومهلهم قليلا. إن لدينا أنكالا وجحيما وطعاما ذا غصة وعذابا أليما. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها المدثر قم فأنذر وربك فكبر وثيابك فطهر والرجز فاهجر ولا تمنن تستكثر ولربك فاصبر فإذا نكر في الناقور فذلك يومئذ يوم عسير على الكافرين غير يسير ذرني ومن خلقت وحيدا وجعلت له مالا ممدودا وبنين شهودا ومهدت له تمهيدا ثم يطمع أن أزيد كلا إنه كان لآياتنا عنيدا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks, Anis, for excellent khutbah, excellent reminder of our history. MashaAllah. There is no family night tonight. Next week, Khatib will be Brother Ahmad Azam. Register your kids and yourself in the Quran Academy under Sheikh Anas. Weekend school is open. If you would like to register your children, every Friday we have a women's group from 11:30 to 1 o'clock with Dr. Fatima Rafi. If you have any questions, please visit the welcome booth outside and send your email for weekly updates. Please donate to the general funds of this masjid as well as for the new building. I wish to remind you that there is a standing commitment from a family for $80,000 during our fundraiser, and they require that we have to match those funds before they release that check for the elevator. So please come forward and donate. There's an envelope here that you can put your funds in there. Please make dua for those who are sick and ill. Sister Malik Taj Adani, she is ill. Also, for almost about 40 years, interfaith community has helped us tremendously, especially the person, Steve Killinan. Him and his wife, Judy, they have been for over 40 years with us constantly in all the demonstrations, all the city hearings and care functions, shura functions, they're always there. Unfortunately, 2 days ago, Steve, at the age of almost 75 years old, he runs around from masjid to masjid to masjid. He's head of the Mormon church, but he has a tremendous love for Muslims, bigger than an axe. And he went in home, and he is being operated on his brain. So his wife, Judy, immediately called last night and requested that please say the dua for him. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him a speedy recovery and a full recovery, inshallah, bring him safely back to his house. And the people who passed away, there's a young man, he got in an accident a few days ago, in a motorcycle accident, to operation. He will be buried tomorrow, at Saturday at 1 p.m. at Green Hills Mortuary. So I'll ask the Sheikh to say the word.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أمرنا وإليك المصير. اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين وأعلن بفضلك راية الحق والدين. اللهم انصر المسلمين وارحمنا منهم واخذل من خذل دينك ولا تجعلنا منهم. اللهم رب الناس أذهب البأس عن المرضى واشفهم وأنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاءك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم اغفر موتانا وموتى المسلمين. اللهم اسكنهم في اعلى عليين واحشرهم في زمرة الانبياء والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن اولئك رفيقا. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا واخطانا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا اسرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم اختم بالبقية الصالحات أعمالنا. اللهم اختم بالبقية الصالحات أعمالنا. اللهم اختم بالبقية الصالحات أعمالنا. ربنا عليك توكلنا وإليك أنبنا وإليك المصير. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وصحبه.